A lot of people are under the impression that your sexuality can't be influenced by the events that happen in your life, which is not true. Hello lovely humans, welcome to this space on the internet. Today we're talking about asexual spectrum identities. The term asexual is an umbrella term describing anyone who experiences little to no sexual attraction, but there are many different asexual identities other than simply asexual, and that's what we're going to be looking at today, some specific different identities on the asexual spectrum. The first identity is greysexual or gray-asexual. Gray-asexuals experience some sexual attraction, though it may be rare or mild or inconsistent or otherwise irregular. This can also function as an umbrella term for anybody who's not completely asexual, as in experiences no sexual attraction ever, but does not identify as allosexual or as experiencing sexual attraction. My space ace friend Laurel is gray-asexual, so look forward to more content from her to get the details on the experience of being a gray ace. The next asexual identity is something called demisexual. Demisexual people will experience sexual attraction, but only after a very close emotional bond is formed. This means that they won't ever experience initial sexual attraction to somebody. It takes getting to know them first. My other space ace friend, Caden, identifies as demisexual, so look forward to content from them in order to get to know the demi experience. The next asexual spectrum identity is something called Fraysexual. Fraysexual people will experience sexual attraction upon meeting someone or first encountering them, but the attraction will fade after getting to know them or with time. You can kind of think of it as the opposite of demisexual, as in they'll experience initial sexual attraction, but it will fade as an emotional bond forms. Whereas demisexual people will not experience initial sexual attraction and may once an emotional bond forms. The next identity is lithosexual. Lithosexual people will feel sexual attraction, but not necessarily want it reciprocated. Next identity on the list is autosexual. This involves feeling sexual attraction to yourself as opposed to other people. This may translate to preferring masturbation to sexual activity with a partner. Next is reciprosexual. Reciprosexual people will only experience sexual attraction after ascertaining that someone experiences sexual attraction for them first. It may seem like their sexual attraction for someone activates once they have made sure that someone is sexually attracted to them. Next is Cupiosexual, which is an identity that describes an asexual person who desires sexual relationships. Next is Idemsexual. This one's an interesting one. Someone who is Idemsexual does not distinguish sexual from platonic attraction and will establish relationships based on other factors that are not inherently related to their attraction. They will decide the nature of a relationship they have with someone based on factors that are not directly related to them feeling attracted to them. This is an asexual identity because they do not internally feel sexual attraction. Next is ace-flux. Aceflux is another umbrella term that describes the asexual spectrum, but in a different way than greysexuality does. Aceflux is an identity that shifts anywhere along the asexual spectrum, or fluctuates between asexual spectrum identities. For example, someone who's aceflux may not experience any sexual attraction for some periods of time, and then feel some maybe inconsistent or mild sexual attraction other times. Or maybe they are having a Fraysexual type experience where they experience initial attraction to someone and it fades, or anywhere on the asexual spectrum, and having it fluctuate is ace-flux. Next identity is something known as ace-spike. Someone who's ace-spike will usually experience no sexual attraction, but may sometimes have sudden, very intense spikes of sexual attraction, and these usually last for short periods of time before returning to feeling no sexual attraction. Next is Quoisexual, based on the French word quoi, meaning what. Basically, this identity describes a little bit of uncertainty or confusion as to your identity on the asexual spectrum, or it can also describe someone who doesn't really understand sexual attraction or sex or sexual orientation as it relates to themselves. They just don't really vibe with it, don't really know what's up with that, and don't necessarily see the importance in defining it. Next is Fictosexual. This is another spectrum identity because there's a lot of different ways to be fictosexual. Fictosexuality involves feeling sexual attraction for exclusively fictional characters, or having your sexuality somehow influenced by fictional characters. Next is Erassexual. I may be pronouncing this one wrong, but Erassexual is a term that describes people who did once feel sexual attraction, but for whatever reason it has just kind of disappeared, doesn't exist anymore. They no longer experience sexual attraction. And last but not least is Caedsexual. Again, I might be pronouncing this one wrong, but it's similar to Erassexual or Erassexual, whatever it is, in that it describes someone who did once feel sexual attraction and no longer does, although Caedsexual is restricted to people who have had negative sexual experiences in the past or PTSD that contributes to their loss of attraction. This is an important one because I think a lot of people are under the impression that if you're asexual, you are always asexual, or that your sexuality can't be influenced by the events that happen in your life, which is not true, and Caedsexual people are proof. Those were some ace-spec identities, and we'll see you next time for more ace content. Bye!